Hey guys, what's up? It's the Merc here, and it is 2015, and we are back at Poolshed Games. Last week was quiet because it was New Year's. The week before that, we put one video up because it was Christmas. We took some time to spend with our family and friends, did a little gaming, ate too much food, had some cookies, opened some presents, drank some beer, and now we're back. And we were ringing off the new year with a new series, which is going to be called The Shipyard. In keeping with the new direction of the channel, where we're focusing mostly on Spartan game products, but we will also be discussing the other games we play, such as Infinity and War Machine, Drop Zone Commander, and board games. This series is going to be talking about models in-game in the fleets that I play, and if the Lich Lord does videos in the fleets that he plays. Now, this is not like the dry dock where I talk about the models that I'm painting and the projects I have on the go. This is purely going to be talking about my views on the ship that I'm talking about, how it works for me in-game, what I think of it, a little bit about its stats, and the way I think it can be applied. Now, this means that there's going to be some tactical advice. I'm not claiming to be an ironclad genius when it comes to this game. I'm not claiming to know 100% what I'm doing. I kind of wanted to break down units the way I see them for you guys. So that's what we're going to do here in the Shipyard. The first model I want to talk about is the Covenant of Antarctica Prometheus Dreadnaught. I should probably start with my Russians because they're mostly painted. I say mostly because I got the attack flotilla, which has the heavy battleship and the mortar ships in it for Christmas. But I just played a game with these guys on Sunday, got to use the Dreadnought, and it really impressed me, so I kind of want to talk about that. Now, I'm going to start off by showing off the model. I apologize for the dirty sin of it being not even undercoated. So I do think undercoating really helps to show off the detail of the model. But I think you can get an idea of what the detail levels on it just from looking at that there. One thing you'll know, anyone out there who are familiar with the Covenant of Antarctica, is I've loaded my Dreadnought up with the gunnery turrets rather than the heavy energy turrets. The reason for this is they get more dice in range bands 1 and 2, which granted, if you take some hull point hits, you're going down in attack dice, but at range band 1, you have to take 5 points of damage to be at the same level as an energy turret. Also, by taking the gunnery turrets, you can link them with the 4 bombard that it has to get more dice. Which, if you do that, it means you're not going to get the Strontium rounds rule, but sometimes that's a trade-off you are willing to make. Now, mentioning the Strontium rounds rule, every model in all the primary guns in the Covenant of Antarctica has Strontium rounds. And what that means is, if you're hitting the enemy's shields, they don't get to reroll 6s. It still counts as 2 successes, but they don't get to reroll it. So it gives you a little bit of an edge in piercing their protection. So first, let's talk points. This baby is expensive points-wise. It's 320 points, bare bones. You're probably always going to be running this at least 340 points, because at 320 you get a 2-dice shield generator, which for 20 points more, you can take that up to a 3-die shield generator. I don't know why you wouldn't do that. It's just that little extra bit of survivability, especially when you combine it with the Covenant's ability to inventive scientist, where you can re-roll a die, and their fleet ability, where once per turn you can change the result of a die by 1 point. So why you wouldn't bump it up to 3-dice shields, I don't know. Now, its DR and CR are which damage reduction is DR and critical rating. DR is damage rating, and CR is critical rating. It's pretty bog standard amongst Dreadnoughts. It has a 7 for damage rating and an 11 for critical rating. So it can take a few hits before it takes a point of damage. And it takes a bit to cause a critical, especially with shields. So now let's move on to some of the other stats. Its assault points are only 10. They're elite crew, which means they hit and defend on 3s, but there's only 10 guys. Well, 10 dice. And its AA is only 8, which means it's somewhat vulnerable to boarding. There are ways around this, such as escorts and cap, but on its own, as it stands, it's vulnerable to boarding. So if you're playing against like a Prussian player who just loves to launch those Marines, you're going to have to protect it, or you're going to probably lose it. So, those are kind of the important stats that stand out. Moving on to weapons. It has 4 turrets. The front and aft turret have 2 70-degree arcs of fire. The 2 beam turrets have 1 80-degree arcs of fire. This means that normally you're probably only going to be able to get 2 turrets on something, 3 if you get the broadside, or if you get a long enemy ship in front of you, you can hit it with the 3 turrets that face to the front. Not a bad deal. It kind of, with the way this is set up, it kind of makes me think that it's almost designed to just dive into a pack of mediums or smalls and just lay out the hurt all over the place, like a true brawler. Because its broadsides are nothing to whiff at either. Its broadsides are 12, 10, 8, 4, so they're almost exactly the same as the turrets. So if you get in amongst the enemy fleet, especially like smalls and mediums, you can put out a lot of dice just all over the place. It does have a 4 bombard, which is a 9.876, so it's not bad. And the nice thing there is it can be an indiscriminate attack if you fire it indirectly, so it ignores shields, which is pretty nice. Unless we're doing indiscriminate attacks wrong, which if we are, we will fix it. Let us know in the comments. And lastly, one of the big reasons that I love this ship is it has a particle accelerator. Particle accelerators are aside from drones, they are the kind of like special, well, one of the special things that the Antarcticans bring to the table. The particle accelerator is a nasty weapon because it fires basically a straight line. I'm going to make some special templates for it, which the Prometheus fires out to range band 4. So I have to make a 32-inch long, 1-inch wide template. And basically what you do is you lay that template down from the tip of the particle accelerator, and any ship that's under that template gets hit. If it's in range band 1, it's hit with 14 dice. If range band 2, 12 dice. At 3, 8. And at 4, 6. It gives you the ability to just hit at range and clear out, like, if you're against an opponent where they cluster smalls together, man, you can clear them out because you can just, zip that particle accelerator through them, and it's a beautiful thing. The game I played Sunday, I had an early game shot with the particle accelerator, and I killed 2 frigates, put a wound on a cruiser, and put a wound on the British fleet carrier, just because the Lich Lord wasn't completely prepared, I don't think, for that particle accelerator shot. And it was beautiful. It was fantastic. And it's indiscriminate, so it ignores shields. Downside is it hits on 5s or 6s, which I have to amend that. I have been doing that a little bit wrong in the group, but it never suffers from small or elusive target or partially obscured. It's always just 5s or 6s to hit. So, ups and downs. So that's the weapons on it. One has the broadsides, like I said, which are 12, 10, 8, 4, almost the same as the turrets. So it's a beat stick. It can just like wedge itself in the enemy line. It has a couple escorts with it, and just go at it. Just go at it real hard. So, what does it come with? Rules-wise. Has an elite crew, and it comes with inventive scientists to begin with, which lets you reroll the die for shields. It also has a strategic value, so if it sinks, you're given 100 points to the enemy, which makes sense to Dreadnought. If it sinks, you've something's gone wrong. Or the enemy has thrown all their assets at it, and you have won because you got objective or something else. It comes with, like I said, the Shield 2 generator. You can upgrade it to Shield 3 for 20 points. I think when I played, mine ended up being 360 points, because it has the option for 3 more generators. And each generator, you can take one of the 3, they're each 20 points. Personally, I really like to give it the dilation field generator. And granted, turn you fire your particle accelerator, you can't use a generator, so you have to make that decision. But if it's early in the game and you don't have a good particle accelerator shot, you can use the time dilation generator to put out a large area of effect template that makes everything shooting through it partially blocked, which means it now hits on 5s or 6s. It's a good way, like, to protect other assets of your fleet, because you can put it out in front of them after they've activated. They won't take the penalty to shooting, but your opponent will shooting at them. It has the option for a mine control generator. I don't use a lot of mines. In fact, I almost had a horrible incident with mines in the game on Sunday. I don't use them very often, so the mine generator doesn't do much for me. Might do something for you if you play with a lot of mines. Because Antarctic mines are good. They have high payload. I mean, every hit counts as 2. It's insane. But that's just the way it is. And the last generator, it can get a target painter generator for primary weapons, which I like that because it's a 16-inch range. If you hit with it, all primary guns shooting at the target that's been painted hit on +1, so they hit on 3s instead of 4s. That's great. But my fleet, I run a very mixed bag of energy turrets and primary weapons, so it's not that useful for me. I find the dilation field generator is the most useful option for myself. Like I said, your mileage may vary, and you might want to try other generators. The last thing I will say is it can upgrade its primary turrets to energy turrets, heavy energy turrets, which give it 7 dice at every range band. That's not bad. You get a respectable amount of dice, but I feel that if you do that, if you give it the heavy energy turrets, you're changing its role. You're making it a very long-range capable ship at that point, where it can just sit back and hit, mediums and smalls with good energy fire and peg them at range. Where I feel with the guns, with the primary guns, you're brawling, you're getting in there, you're throwing punches, you're taking things out. You want to be close. I'm not saying anything's wrong with the energy turret option. I like to be aggressive with it. That's the way I felt in the game I played with it, and it's the way I think I'm going to keep running it. So, all in all, I think out of the Dreadnoughts I have, out of the compared to the American and the Russian Dreadnought, this is probably my favorite, because it has a lot of utility. Unlike the Russian Dreadnought, which it's a monster when it hits range band 2. It can't do a whole lot at range band 3, and it can't do anything at range band 4. And the American Dreadnought almost wants to stay at range band 4 or range band 3 and just hit separate targets with each of its turrets to make use of its rerolls from sustained fire. And, I mean, it can get in close, but it feels like that's a late-game thing. The Prometheus, on the other hand, you start off and you just barrel towards the enemy, and while you're going, you're just shooting on your way in, and then once you're in there, you're mixing it up. And I really like that with this Dreadnought. It's a lot different than the Euclid, which is their flying Dreadnought. I'll talk about that later. But all in all, I'm glad I got this model. Looking forward to painting it up, because I hope you guys can see, as with Spartan Games products in general, they're very nice models. These are very kind of futuristic. They're the most futuristic looking of the line, and aside from the Invaders, they don't count. And I think it's going to be great fun to paint. So that's my feelings on it. Hopefully you guys liked the video. Hopefully it was informative. If you're a Covenant of Antarctica player and you're thinking about picking up the Prometheus, I'd say do it. It's a nice model to add to your collection. It's a nice asset to add to your fleet. If you're going against Covenant of Antarctica, hopefully this will give you a little bit of an idea of what you're going to be facing if they bring the Prometheus to the table. Remember, if you're against it, boarding is your friend, because it can't defend against it as well as some can. Remember, if you're bringing it to the table, boarding is your enemy. You're going to want to protect your Dreadnought. That's going to do it for this episode of the Shipyard. Hopefully we'll see you guys later here at Poolshed Games.